right, guys, we're going to go ahead and review for your test that you've got coming up in a couple days. We're going to go ahead and do some one-step equations, two-step equations, equations with variables on both sides, creating equations from word problems, and seeing equations with no solution, infinite solutions, excuse me, or just one solution. So let's go ahead and do this first one. If you guys want, you can go ahead and get a pencil, paper, calculator, and follow along with me. I think that's really great practice. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to work on showing our work, defining our answer, and then checking our answer. So for this first one, I have 1 over 4x equals 32. So what this is saying is 1/4 of this number is going to equal 32. So because 1 over 4 is being multiplied with my x, I have to do the opposite of the multiplication to get the x by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 1 over 4. Once I do that, my 1/4 is going to cancel, leaving me with just an x. And I'm going to get x equals 128. So I think that my answer is x equals 128. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to I'm going to plug in my answer and see if it's correct. So I'm going to do 1 over 4x is equal to 32. Now instead of rewriting it with my x, I'm going to plug it in using parentheses. And once I go ahead and multiply 1/4 times 128, oops, sorry, I don't know why I wrote 13. 32. And then once I go ahead and multiply, I'm going to get 32 is equal to 32. So this just proves that x equals 28 is our answer. All right, so let's move on to this next one. I have 7x plus 6 equals 20. So the first thing I have to do is work on getting the x by itself. So I'm going to do that by doing the opposite of plus 6, which is minus 6 on both sides. Once I do that, that's going to cancel, and I get 7x is equal to 14. 7x is multiplying. Again, I have to get the x by itself, so I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. Divide both sides by 7. And I'm going to get x is equal to 2. So if I think that x equals 2, oops, I'm going to come over here and check my answer. So I have 7x plus 6 is equal to 20. Now rewriting it with what I think x equals, and I said I think it equals 2 plus 6 is equal to 20. Now I have to follow the order of operations. So parentheses, there's not really any math going on in my parentheses, so we're going to move on to exponents. I don't see any exponents, so we're going to go ahead and multiply. 7 times 2 is 14. Bringing down the rest of my problem. And then 14 plus 6 equals 20. So because 20 does equal 20, that means that x equals 2 is the correct answer. All right, for number 3, don't panic when you see these decimals. It's a-okay. We're still just going to do the same operations that we always do. So I have 4.2x is equal to 8.4. 4.2 and x are multiplying. So in order to get the x by itself, I have to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4.2. Once I do that, that's going to cancel, and I'm going to get an x is equal to 2. If x is equal to 2, if this is a true statement, then I should be able to plug it back in and get the same answer. So 4.2x is equal to 8.4. 4.2, now instead of x, I'm going to multiply by 2, is equal to 8.4. And that does check out. So because 8.4 is equal to 8.4, That means that x equals 2 is the correct answer. For number 4, I have x over 6 minus 5 equals 2. So again, I can't touch my x over 6 yet because there's a negative 5 in the way here. So to get rid of that, I first need to add 5 on both sides. So x over 6 is now equal to 7. And then because x over 6 is division, I have to do the opposite, which is going to be to multiply. I'm going to do a dot instead of my cross. Multiply 6 on both sides. Once I do that, those are going to cancel. And I get x equals 42. So, So again, if x does equal 42, then I should be able to plug it back into this problem and get 2 as my answer. So let's see. I have x over 6 minus 5 is equal to 2. So now instead of x, I'm going to write 42 over 6 minus 5 equals 2. So now just follow your order of operations. There's no math in my parentheses, no exponents, no multiplication, but I do see division. So 42 over 6, or 42 divided by 6, is going to give me 7. 7 minus 5 is equal to 2. So because 2 is equal to 2, that means that x is equal to 42. All right, moving on to number 5. I have 6x minus 7 is equal to 3x plus 2. So because I have variables on both sides, my goal is to get my x's to one side and my constants to the other. So my constants are just these numbers without variables. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to look at my x's. I see I have 6x and 3x. I'm going to move the smaller one so that I can avoid working with negative numbers. Once I do that, 6x minus 3x is going to give me 3x minus 7 is equal to, these cancel, and I just bring down my 2. So now I have 3x minus 7 is equal to 2. Before I can work with my x, I need to make sure it's all by itself. So to do that, I need to get my 7 over. I see that I have a negative 7, so I'm going to do the opposite of that and add 7 on both sides. Once I do that, my 7's cancel, and I get 3x is equal to 9. 3x is multiplication, so to do the opposite of multiplication, that would mean to do division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. My 3's are going to cancel, and I get x is equal to 3. So if I think that x equals 3, that means that I should be able to plug it into my problem and get the same answer on both sides of my equation. So rewriting it as 6x minus 7 is equal to 3x plus 2. Then now plugging in my 3 instead of my x. So 6 times 3 minus 7 is equal to 3 times 3 plus 2. So now just following order of operations on both sides. So there's no math within my parentheses, no exponents. There is multiplication. So what I'm going to do is do 6 times 3. That's going to give me 18. Minus 7 is equal to 3 times 3. That's going to give me 9 plus 2. So now all I have to do is simplify both sides. 18 minus 7 equals 11, and 9 plus 2 equals 11. So because I got the same answer over here, that means that x does equal 3. All right, for this next one, I have 7x plus 2 is equal to 56. So whenever I see my parentheses right next to a number like this, and inside my parentheses there's another math problem, I have to distribute whatever outside. And I have to distribute it to everything that's inside of my parentheses. So my 7 is going to go to my x, which is going to give me 7x. And my 7 is going to go to my positive 2, which is going to give me positive 14. And this is equal to 56. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm trying to get my x by itself. To do that, I first need to get rid of my constant, which is 14. It's a positive 14, so I need to do the opposite on both sides, and that'll be subtracting 14. Once I do that, my 14s cancel, and I get 7x is equal to 42. So now 7x is multiplication. In order to get my x by itself, I have to do the opposite of that, which is going to be division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. And I'm going to get x is equal to 6. So my answer is going to be x equals 6. If I am correct and x does equal 6, then when I plug it back in, I should be able to get the same answer on both sides. So I'm going to start by rewriting my problem. And now I'm going to rewrite it again, but instead of writing x, I'm going to plug in my variable. So now, following my order of operations, there is math to do within my parentheses. So 7 and then 6 plus 2 is 8 equals 56. And 7 times 8 does equal 56. So 56 is equal to 56, which means that x equals 6 is the correct answer. So let's try another one like that. Number 7 is negative 3x plus 4 is equal to 4x minus 47. So because I have parentheses with math going on inside, but a number also on the outside, I have to distribute. So negative 3 is going to go to my x, which is going to give me negative 3x. Negative 3 is going to go to positive 4, which is going to give me a negative 12, is equal to, and then on this side, there's no math to simplify. So it's just going to be 4x minus 47. All right, so now my next step is to get my x's on one side and my numbers on the other. So to do that, I'm going to look at my x's and I'm going to ask myself which one is smaller, because I want to move the smaller one so that I can avoid working with unnecessary negative numbers. So in this case, negative 3x is smaller than 4x. So I'm going to do the opposite of that and add 3x on both sides. When I do that, my negative 3x cancels and I have to bring down my negative 12. Now 4x plus 3x is 7x minus 47. So now I have my x on one side. I want to get my numbers on another side. I can't move my negative 12 because if I move my negative 12 and it cancels out, I'm not going to have anything on that side of my equation. So what I want to do is the opposite of negative 47, which is going to be to add 47 on both sides. Once I do that, negative 12 plus 47 equals 35. And 35 is now equal to 7x because those canceled out. So 7x is multiplication. I want my x by itself, so I'm going to do the opposite, which is going to be division. So divide both sides by 7. Once I do that, I'm going to get 5 is equal to x. So if x equals 5, then both sides of the equation should be the same number if I'm correct. So we're going to do our negative 3 x plus 4 is equal to 4x minus 47. So now rewriting it again, but instead of writing our x, we're going to plug it in. So negative 3 times 5 plus 4 is equal to 4 times 5 minus 47. So following our order of operations, parentheses are first. 5 plus 4 is going to give me 9. Is equal to 4 times 5 is 20 minus 27. Or I'm sorry, not 27. Whoops. Minus 47. Okay. So now simplifying my left side, negative 3 times 9 is negative 27. And 20 minus 47 is negative 27. So if negative 27 is equal to negative 27, then x equals 5 is the correct answer. So we're going to go ahead and do some of these word problems now. So my first step is always going to be to read it all the way through first. Bill weighs 120 pounds and is gaining 10 pounds each month. Phil weighs 150 pounds and is gaining 4 pounds each month. How many months, M, will it take for Bill to weigh the same as Phil? So now that I've read it through once, I'm going to go ahead and read it again, and now underlining, highlighting, circling those important details. So if Bill weighs 120 pounds and he's gaining 10 pounds each month, I know gaining is a positive. He weighs 120 pounds, and each month, this is really important because each is telling me that it's going to happen again and again and again. I don't know how many times it's going to happen, and I know that that's what I'm solving for. So that's going to be my variable. It's going to be 10 pounds in each month, M. Phil weighs 150 pounds, and he's gaining 4 pounds each month. So again, because it's happening month after month after month, this is going to be my variable. So I want to know how many months, M, it will take for Bill to weigh the same as Phil. So if Bill weighs 120 pounds and he's gaining, which we said was positive, 10 pounds each month, month after month after month, we want to know how much Phil is going to weigh after the same amount of time. So we have 150 pounds for Phil, and each month he's gaining 4 pounds. So our equation is 120 plus 10m is equal to 150 plus 4m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and look at my m's. I'm going to ask myself which one is smaller, because that's the one that I want to move. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to move my 4m. I see that my 4m is a positive, so I'm going to do the opposite of that, which is going to be a negative. Once I do that, I get 120 plus 10m minus 4m is 6m is equal to 150, because my 4m's canceled. So now I have my variables on one side, but I want all of my other numbers on the other. So I'm going to do the opposite of a positive 120, which is just going to be to subtract. So we're going to subtract 120 on both sides. I'm going to bring my work over here. So once I do that, my 120s cancel, and I get 6m is equal to 150 minus 120. That's 30. Oops. So now I have 6m equals 30. So 6m is multiplication. I want the m by itself, so I have to divide on both sides. So we're dividing by 6. When I do that, my 6's cancel, and I'm left with m equals 5. So let's go ahead and double check our work. I'm going to just use the same problem we did earlier. So 120 plus 10m is equal to 150 plus 4m. Now just plugging in for my variable. So 120 plus 10 times 5 is equal to 150 plus 4 times 5. So now just following the order of operations, I'm going to go ahead and multiply. Once I do that, I'm going to get 120 plus 50 is equal to 150 plus 20. Now I'm just going to go ahead and add up both sides. 120 plus 50 is 170, and 150 plus 20 is 170. So because those both equal the same thing, M equals 5. 5 months is the correct answer. On this next one, we have apartment A has $1,000 security deposit and costs $1,200 each month. Apartment B has a $1,500 security deposit and costs $1,175 each month. I want to know how many months it will take for the costs to be the same. So, you guys pay rent each month. So because this is each month, our variable is going to go with the 1,200. Looking at apartment B, it costs 1,175 each month. So my variable is going to go with my 1,175. So your security deposit is like a one-time payment. So I'm only paying 1,000 one time, but I'm also going to have to pay $1,200 each month. I want to know how many months it will take for the costs to be the same, where apartment B is a $1,500 security deposit in addition to my $1,175 rent each month. So my problem is 1,000 plus 1,200x equals 1,500 plus 1,175x. So my goal is to get my x's on one side and my other numbers on the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my x's and ask myself which one is smaller. So 1,175 is smaller, which means that I want to do the opposite of that. So I'm going to subtract 1,175 on both sides. Once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and get 25x is equal to, these are going to cancel, 1,500. So now I have to get my 1,000 to the other side of my equation so that my 25x is by itself. So to do that, I'm going to subtract 1,000. These are going to cancel, and I get 25x is equal to 500. So I'm going to bring my math over here because I'm not done yet. 25x is equal to 500. Now to get my x by itself, I have to divide both sides by 25. So we'll do divide by 25, divide by 25, and x is going to equal 20. So now I'm going to go ahead and just double check my answer. So I'm going to rewrite my problem. 1,000 plus 1,200x is equal to 1,500 plus 1,175x. So now rewriting it, but instead of my x, I'm going to put 20. 1,000 plus 1,200 times 20 is equal to 1,500 plus 1,175 times 20. So following my order of operations, I'm going to get 1,000. And because I'm multiplying first, 1,200 times 20 is 24,000 is equal to 1,500. And then 1,175 times 20 is going to give me 23,500. So now I'm just going to add on both sides. Once I do that, I'm going to get 25,000 is equal to 25,000. So because these are both the same, I've just proven that x does equal 20. So on your test, you're also going to have to identify what problems have no solution, one solution, or infinite solutions. So we're going to go ahead and practice with that as well. I'm given the equation 2x minus 4 equals 2x plus 4. So to try and find it, I'm going to get my x's on one side. So I'm going to go ahead and move 2x. Once I do that, I'm going to get negative 4 equals 4. But that's not a true statement. So because of that, this problem has no solution. All right, moving on. Identify the problem as having no solution, one solution, or infinite solutions. I'm given 6x minus 10 is equal to 20. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and move my negative 10. And to do that, I'm going to add 10 on both sides. When I do that, my 10s cancel, and I get 6x is equal to 30. Next, I need to go ahead and do the opposite of 6x. 6x is multiplying, so I'm going to go ahead and divide 6 on both sides because division is the opposite of multiplication. So once I do that, my 6's cancel, and I get x equals 5. I'm going to go ahead and double check my answer. So now I have 6x minus 10 is equal to 20. Plugging in my 5, $30 minus 10 is equal to 20. So 20 being equal to 20 proves that x equals 5. So there's only one solution. All right, this last one, I have 2x plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 1 plus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and see if there's anything I can simplify. On my left side, it doesn't look like there is. So I'm just going to rewrite that. Over here, though, my plus 1 and my plus 2 are like terms. So it's going to be 2x, and I'm going to combine my like terms. 1 plus 2 is 3. So now some of you guys may have noticed that I have the same equation on both sides. So once that happens, you know that any number that you plug in for x, you're going to get the same thing. But let's just keep going and keep solving this. So let's say I wanted to get rid of my variables. So I would do the opposite of a positive 2x, which would be to subtract 2x. Once I do that, those cancel, but I'm left with 3 equals 3. And that's a true statement. So before I can confirm that these are infinite solutions, I'm going to go ahead and let's say that x equals 4. Because if it's an infinite solution, then x equals 4 should work. So I'm rewriting 2x plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 1 plus 2. Now rewriting, but putting my 4 in for my x. So 2 times 4 plus 3 is equal to 2 times 4. I'm also going to use this step to combine my like terms, which is going to give me plus 3. So this is going to equal 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3 is equal to 2 times 4, 8 plus 3. So 11 equals 11. Okay, so there's one piece of evidence, or another piece of evidence, I guess, that this would be infinite solutions. But let's try it with a negative. So let's see if x could equal negative 2. So again, just rewriting. Now plugging in negative 2 for my x. And And I'm also going to combine my like terms on this step. So 1 plus 2 is positive 3. So 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Plus 3 is equal to 2 times negative 2, negative 4, plus 3. So because negative 1 is equal to negative 1, that tells me that negative 2 could also be a solution. So if I'm getting the same thing over here, x equals 4 works and x equals negative 2 works, that means that this is going to have an infinite amount of solutions.